Greetings to all C3RF members and friends throughout the nation and indeed around the world as we welcome all to another edition of In Hot with a very, very special guest in the form of Clare Lopez. Clare is a former Central Intelligence Agency officer who has served as Vice President for Research and Analysis at the Center for Security Policy and has established herself as a premier counterintelligence and counterterrorism expert. She received a BA in Communications and French from the Notre Dame College of Ohio and a Master's of Arts in International Relations from the Maxwell School of Syracuse University. She completed Marine Corps Officer Candidate School in Quantico, Virginia, before declining the commission in order to join the CIA. She then began her career in earnest as an operations officer with the Central Intelligence Agency, serving domestically and abroad for some 20 years in a variety of assignments. In doing so, she acquired extensive expertise in counterintelligence, counter-narcotics, and counter-proliferation issues with a career regional focus on the former Soviet Union, Central and Eastern Europe, and the Balkans. She has served in or visited over 24 nations worldwide and speaks several languages, including Spanish, Bulgarian, French, German, Russian, and she's currently studying Farsi. Lopez is now a member of the board of directors for the Institute of World Affairs and also serves on the advisory board for the Intelligence Analysis and Research Program as an occasional guest lecturer at her undergraduate alma mater, Notre Dame College. She's also been a visiting researcher at Georgetown University and a guest lecturer on terrorism, national defense, international relations, and Iran at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. Clare is also a regular contributor to print and broadcast media on subjects related to Iran, Islam, counterterrorism, the Middle East, and she is the co-author of 2 published books on Iran. Welcome to In Hot, Clare. I have been a fan of yours for several years now. It's such a pleasure to have you with us. I noted not too long ago what perked my interest was I've been following you for many years now, but my interest was perked in your article from January of this year, and it was on the Iranian people and how they deserve their liberation. And if I can just cut away to share screen, I'm going to show that article. And there it is on Pundicity. And in the article, you note that Iran has been with us now in a theocratic form for some 47 years. And you note that there's been commotion amongst the population ever since, and what followed has been a sequence of popular uprisings, the 2009 Green Movement, fuel protests, 2019 women's-led hijab protests of the Woman Life Freedom that began with a bludgeoning murder in police custody of Masha Amini in 2022. In between each of these major revolts has been nearly a continuous defiance of the mullah's regime by courageous resistance forces led by young men and women of Iran who refuse to surrender their dreams of freedom. And I'll just stop share there and just get, I have a question for you. The latest Iranian uprising, we're looking at some 40,000 people shot dead in the streets by the regime, by the theocratic regime. And I don't know about America, but up here in Canada, that whole thing, the atrocity has been memory hold, and it's nowhere to be seen. Are you finding that in the United States of America, or is it just a Canadian phenomenon?
Well, first, thank you for having me, Russ. Very glad to be with you on the program today. I have followed you thanks to Valerie Price's regular newsletter, in which she includes you with every issue. So
Okay.
thank you again. Glad to be with you. And I would note too on my bio background a little bit. I have been independent since 2000 and am the founder president of Lopez Liberty LLC, and the same national security focus as my entire career has been with that, but to include a lot of writing, speaking, teaching, training, and that sort of thing. But to go to Iran, it has been a specific focus of mine for a very long time. Post 9/11, of course, I was already in the private sector, And I joined a new, at that time, Washington, D.C. think tank called the Iran Policy Committee. And it's
Mm.
with them that I helped to co-author those two books about Iran. And that began my real focus on Iran. Began studying Farsi at that time. I'm afraid I'm a very slow student, but I meet up with my
Good for
teacher. She
you.
and I meet at a Panera restaurant most Saturdays to see if we can, you know, move me along in my progress with Farsi.
Wow.
But as far as the more recent events that have taken place in Iran, you're absolutely right to note that, over all these 47 years since the Ayatollah Khomeini led the jihadist revolution, the 1979 Iran revolution, ever since then, a good part of the Iranian population, which is probably only about a half, 50% Persian, with the other half or so ethnic minorities, to include Baluchis, Turkmen, Azeris, Kurds, Ahwaz Arabs. And
Mm.
they, in addition to um, the Mujahideen Khalq, which has a presence in all 31 provinces, have been in armed revolt against that regime all of those 47 years, continue to be so, and only need some outside help, not boots on the ground, no, but weapons, communications, intelligence, and this regime will be no more. So, as you pointed out, there have been numerous mass uprisings of the people taking to the streets over these many, many years, decades. Most recently, January this year of 2026, when, as you rightly know, tens of thousands of peaceful protesters, demonstrators in the streets were just literally mowed down and slaughtered by the Iranian regime security forces, in particular the Basij units, the militia,
Yeah.
that is a unit of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Um, and here in the United States, that has very much been top of the topics. It's not memory hold at all. It's very much on our minds. It's very much spoken about, remembered, especially because the conflict, the operations, Israel's Operation Roaring Lion, United States Operation Epic Fury, that launched at the very end of February this year into early March, continues. And it has reached a crescendo, which we can talk about here, maybe some more. But the idea really is that as soon as the armed forces, the security forces of this repressive, tyrannical regime are degraded sufficiently that they do not pose the threat that they did before, the people will be out in the streets again. As a matter of fact, I should say they've been in the streets, just not in the numbers, since January of 26 this year. But they will be out in millions again
Wow.
as
Wow.
soon as the forces are degraded enough that they stand a chance against the regime.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to that. You say it's not memory hold in the United States, and that is very, very good to hear. But I must say, from a Canadian perspective, I really believe it has been memory hold in Canada. We don't talk about the 40,000 plus that have died in the streets. As a matter of fact, we've had a little bit of a controversy here with an IRGC bigwig coming to Canada and allowed into Canada to attend some FIFA ceremonies.
Mm.
So, in Canada, the Iranian situation has basically come down to one. Well, this is why our gas prices are so high, because of Trump's activities in Iran, and the narrative becomes spun that way instead of you know rooting for the people who are seeking their liberation from a truly despotic regime. it's all about gas prices. So we're looking at something a little bit different here. So
Well,
do you
no,
have?
I mean, actually, we are struggling down here with gas prices, which just, by the way, shot up again today after having fallen to something in the $80 range, 80 something per barrel, as negotiations between the United States and Iran went on and continued. But as of this weekend, not only has the very fragile, now perhaps not existent anymore, ceasefire between the United States and Iran collapsed essentially,
Mhm.
with Iranian attacks against U.S. naval forces in the Strait of Hormuz area, Persian Gulf, and the United States retaliation over this past weekend against their drone command and control centers and missile basing sites in on a couple of the islands of Iran in the Persian Gulf. Iran then struck back at a United States base located in Kuwait with two missile launches. Apparently, they were both intercepted. No damage, no casualties, thankfully. But then, in the wake of all of that, we hear this morning that all talks, all negotiations between the United States and Iran has cut them off, citing Israeli operations in southern Lebanon to
Yeah.
include uh, soon or maybe imminently the Hezbollah stronghold in the Dahia, which is the southern suburb of Beirut. So in the midst of all of that, negotiations have been stopped. I think we are probably headed back to full scale operations. And of course, the United States has maintained overwhelming naval and aerial forces in the region, pending just such an eventuality as we find ourselves at right now.
Yeah. How do you feel about the American resolve? Are Americans prepared to stay the course, or
Oh,
uh,
definitely. I
okay?
mean, overwhelmingly, yes. Yes, we're complaining about the gas prices. Yes. Nobody wants to pay. I have a small SUV. It's a Nissan Rogue. And even at the discounted price I get for belonging to one of these supermarket clubs down here, I still have to pay something like $50 to fill up the tank, which is a good $20 more than I used to have to pay, more or less.
Yeah. Hmm.
So yes, we're complaining about all of that, but I think we understand, that this regime has to go. I mean, there's simply no alternative, and the reason is not only its blocking of the Strait of Hormuz to international shipping. Strait of Hormuz is international waterways. No one has the right under United Nations law of the sea to charge tolls or passage fees or whatever. It's international waterways. But it's not just that. It is the fact that the Iranian regime was within weeks on the cusp of developing, being able to put together multiple nuclear weapons mounted on the nose cones of its ballistic missiles. When that became known, and it is publicly known that they were very close to being able to do that, they had worked on warheads, of course, for many years, decades literally,
Yeah.
as well as a huge, amassing a huge stockpile of ballistic missiles. But that, plus the information that Iran had some 400 kilograms or so of highly enriched uranium. That is close to about 1,000 pounds of enriched uranium. That is in the form of gas. It's not dust. I don't know why that term came to be popular, but it's not dust, it's gas. But that it could have been converted, in a metallurgical process, not just to weapons grade, first of all, which is more than 90% enriched uranium 235, but then the metallurgical process to turn that into the hemispheres, the two hemispheres that go inside of a nuclear warhead, that could have happened with the production of something like 10, 11 warheads. The information was back in late February. At that time, within a very short time span, week, 10 days or so, that is what triggered Israel and the United States to launch our respective military operations, to which it seems we are now returning.
Yeah, I note that Secretary of State Rubio also mentioned the fact that outside of the enriched uranium that's available to the Iranians right now, there was a really large growing concern about the development of missiles
Yes.
and defensive capabilities that would have put Iran in a position of being unassailable, so
Right.
that even if you wanted to go in and destroy the uranium stockpile, you couldn't because the defensive system had been built up to such a point that it was now an impossibility. So. Do you see that as yet another trigger for this action on the part
Yeah,
of
no,
the
absolutely. And the buildup, just as you say, of enormous stockpiles of ballistic missiles by the Iranian regime absolutely was intended as, I don't know what, an insurance policy, maybe you could call it, against any efforts by Israel and or the United States to go after its nuclear weapons program.
Yep. Certainly was.
And so the ballistic missiles sites, launchers, stockpiles located deep underground in different bunkers, those were key targets of Operation Roaring Lion and Operation Epic Fury these last months. And many of those have been taken out. Some remain. The entryways, entryways to the underground bunkers where many thousands of these ballistic missiles are believed to have been kept, were bombed closed
Mhm.
in the operations these past months. But in the time since a ceasefire took place, now apparently ended, but during that time, meaning April until now, or into the very beginning of June, um, those entryways were being dug out so that the Iranian forces could get down into the storage sites underground and bring up for launch, some of those missiles. So
Mhm.
um, that is something that is going to have to be readdressed.
Well, it certainly was. I think a big surprise when the Iranians lobbed off one, maybe two missiles at Diego Garcia, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
was supposedly well outside their stated range of their ballistic capabilities. So that right there, we're talking about being able to hit Europe. I think with that kind
Most
of
of the
range.
capitals of Western Europe, I mean, London, Paris, Berlin, Rome, and even on up into the Scandinavian countries, all of those places now demonstrably in range of the missiles that Iran's regime possesses right now,
Yeah.
never mind further developments that could extend that range, as their intent, their openly stated intent is extend that range to even hit the United States of America mainland.
Now I wonder in Canada we're always people are always talking about well in 2003 Iran said up front that it had no desire to go into a nuclear weapons program.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
and then there are other people who say, I think it was back in the 2006 timeframe where American security uh, sources actually said that yeah, the Iranians have no nuclear weapons program in play. So what do you say? How?
No, not quite. The Iranian, I just finished an essay on this, which I'm hoping to see published within the next day or two, I suppose. It was about the piece that I wrote is about the history of the Iranian nuclear weapons program. How timely.
Mhm.
And so what we know is that the Iranian regime, of course, it took power again, that revolution of 1979, but the Iranian regime began its nuclear weapons program in 1983. They reached out through the IRGC to AQ Khan, Abdul Qadir Khan, so-called father of the Pakistani bomb, and
Yes.
to the Pakistanis for help. They reached out for help with starting their own Iranian nuclear weapons program. And the Pakistanis, for a considerable amount of money in the millions and millions of dollars, I guess, provided that regime with its first blueprints for making centrifuges and some centrifuge parts. Now, the Iranian regime then attempted to use those blueprints and parts to begin its own production of centrifuges. These are those tall, cylinders that have the blades inside that spin around and spin up the uranium hexafluoride gas to enrich it from the original, mineral content isotope of uranium-238, spinning up to uranium-235. At which point then the further conversion process, which is where they're at right now, would have, in that metallurgical process we mentioned, turn that enriched gas into the metallic hemispheres that go in a nuclear weapon. Well, they had a lot of trouble, apparently. The Iranian regime did, and were not very successful in their efforts to develop their own, centrifuge and enrichment programs. So this went on, and they tried and they tried, and I guess they got better at it. But it was not until 2002, in August of 2002, the National Council of Resistance of Iran, NCRI, is the overall umbrella political organization for which its resistance forces on the ground inside of Iran, the Mujahideen Khalq, are the primary member. But the NCRI's headquarters in the United States is in Washington, D.C., on Pennsylvania Avenue, a couple blocks down from the White House. And there was a
Okay.
press conference in August of 2002 at which Google Earth satellite imagery was shown, and to identify for the first time publicly centrifuge enrichment site at Natanz, and also at the Arak heavy water facility. And then from that point onwards, more and more revelations were forthcoming. By 2003, that date that you just mentioned, that's funny. There was another site that had been revealed by, well, Israel already had identified it, but the NCRI in a press conference, all of these are open press briefings,
Mhm.
showed again, Google Earth imagery of a place called Lavizan Shion, a site outside of Tehran, which at that time, 2002-3, was actually the center, the headquarters for the Iranian regime's overall nuclear weapons program. And after that revelation with the Google Earth imagery and the media in attendance at the press conference, the Iranians went to Lavizan Shion and razed it to the ground, paved it over, and I think they made it into a city park with picnic benches and whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, they did not stop their program. What they did after that, realizing, that their program was no longer the secret that it had been for the previous, 13, 14, 12, 13, 14 years, they went underground. I mean, literally and as it were, with something called the Ahmad Plan, AMAD, Ahmad Plan. And this was absolutely the continuation of their earlier efforts, but now more secretive and under often civilian cover for the nuclear weapons program sites, covered over chemical plants or what have you.
Mhm.
I'll skip ahead to what you mentioned, the United States intelligence called it an NIE, National Intelligence Estimate, that came out in, I think, 2007, and
Okay.
declared that, oh, the program has ended. They were revealed, they were exposed, it's done, it's finished. Well, of
Yeah.
course, they were lying. It wasn't true at all, and I think they probably knew it.
Huh.
But the next key point probably was in 2011. And I cite that date because the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, puts out through its governor's board a quarterly report about the Iranian nuclear program. And the one that came out in November of 2011 was the most detailed I've ever seen from the IAEA or really anybody else. And it described in detail what are sometimes called the possible military dimensions of that program.
Oh,
But
okay.
they described, again, in a lot of detail, the work that Iran at that time, 2011, was doing to develop nuclear warheads. And not just nuclear warheads, but you may know that to set off a warhead, you need a multi-point implosion sequence from the outside. And they were discussing in that report, the IAEA, what are called exploding bridge wire nuclear detonators that they were working on, the Iranians, to perfect that multi-point implosion sequence that would set off a warhead. There
Okay.
was
There
much
we go.
more in that report, but I mean, we can go on from there. There was never any such thing as a cessation of that nuclear weapons program. And as we mentioned at the very beginning today, it was because the Iranian regime had so accelerated the development of its warheads. Again, more work, updated work on exploding bridge wire nuclear detonators, and also the actual adaptation, fitting of their warheads, the casings anyway, of those, to the nose cones of their ballistic missiles at ballistic missile sites and elsewhere, like Parchin. No, the program never ended. And as long as this regime, in any form, shape, size whatsoever, remains in Iran, that regime will continue to attempt to
Mhm.
revive, resuscitate, reestablish that nuclear weapons program as well as ballistic missiles.
Well, thanks very much for that. That certainly dispels that 2003 statement from Iran itself and the 2007 NIE assessment. I can assure you that there are going to be many, many exploding heads up here in Canada when they hear that when they hear your details on the whole matter. Now, I wonder. Well, looks like, as you said previously, the Iranians have broken off discussions. Uh, the ceasefire
Mhm.
is at risk now. So I think we're coming down to a matter of time, and I'm wondering what your opinion is on who has the time. Is it the IRGC? Do they have time on their side in this evolving situation, or is it the Americans and the Israelis with their efforts? Who has time on their side?
Oh, absolutely. The Israelis and we do, the United States, no question about it.
Yeah.
Um, the operations that we talked about that began earlier, as we said, late February, early March of this year, absolutely destroyed the Iranian Air Force, its Navy, over 150 ships, some number in that range, literally lie at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. They do not have a Navy anymore, except for these little, what they call the mosquito fleet, these
Yep.
little speedboats. That's all that's left of, the IRGC naval forces, which are a harassment. They're capable of harassing shipping going, trying to go through the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, which is why insurance companies like Lloyd's of London, for example, are hesitant to cover the ships, the shipping companies, until even that little mosquito fleet threat is eliminated. But the Navy is gone, the Air Force is gone, the top leadership down to I don't know what level, second, third, fourth level of the ranks of the IRGC. Now, understand the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or Pasdaran in Farsi, is a separate organization, 150,000 or so maybe members, separate from the actual official army of Iran called the Artesh, which are not on board with all of this at all, and are conscript, enlisted forces in any case. So
Yeah.
the top levels of the IRGC have been eliminated, as we said, down to second, third, who knows what level. But the remnants of those commanders, including figures like Ahmed Vahidi, the current commander of the IRGC, Mohsen Rezai, a former commander of the IRGC, Mohammed Bakr Zolgadar is now the secretary of the Supreme National Security Council in Iran, former and affiliated with the IRGC. Whom else can we name? Those are the commanders of Iran right now. Forget
Okay.
the clergy, forget the
Yeah.
political leadership,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
example. The president, Masoud Pezeshkian, announced just within the last couple of days that he has submitted his request to resign to the supreme leader. I guess he is still alive. That's Mojtaba Khamenei, but in probably pretty rough shape. But Pezeshkian has submitted his resignation. This has become public, saying that he has no more role in leadership of the
Yes.
governing of Iran, that the IRGC controls everything. And so
Wow.
that's who's, in charge. But, as long as any of that remains, and they have gone to something I should explain called the Mosaic model or the Mosaic plan. And this was set up long before the current exchanges. And what it is a devolution of authority down to the local level of each of the 31 provinces in Iran. And that would be to the local commanders of the IRGC there, the Basij, the police, and so forth. And so even now, as command and control communications have been severed, and they have been severed all over the country, these local nodes of command, if you will, remain on autopilot or dead man's hand operation, lacking any real-time communication, back to the center anymore. And so at the local level, they continue to oppress and slaughter and arrest and torture and jail the Iranian people with the cooperation of local judiciary units in those separate provinces. So that's what's going on right now, and why
Yeah.
it is necessary to address even down to that local level, even though the top levels have been decimated, to address the forces that remain still down in these local levels, because that's what's still threatening the people of Iran across the country.
Yeah. It seems like it's Iran is walked away from being a theocracy to one that's just a bludgeoning dictatorship that
Well, but I should add here that these leadership figures of the IRGC, as including its units, the Quds Force, the Basij, certainly the judiciary, are absolutely the most devout, faithful, practicing, obedient Muslims on earth, maybe next to the Taliban, I don't know. But they are what we call Twelvers, and we can talk about that a little bit, but they are followers of the 12th Imam.
Mhm.
They are vetted before even being allowed to apply to the IRGC or Basij or
Okay.
Quds Force,
Okay.
vetted for ideological purity in terms of belief in and following the dictates of the 12th Imam.
Okay. I see that. You're talking about Lloyd's. I think Lloyd's has effectively been taken off the table as an impediment to getting insurance. I think the Americans under Trump have stated that they'll take over these insurance responsibilities. So I think Lloyd's is gone out of there.
Well, no,
And
they're not actually gone, and there are many other insurance companies involved still too. Even though, yes, the United States, President Trump did offer a kind of a backup insurance plan for these shipping companies. I don't know how many of them, if any, have actually accepted that offer.
okay,
And so the withholding of shipping insurance still does impede the free passage trafficking of shipping through the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz.
okay. How about we talk about uh, Israel, America? You know, the world needs help in dealing with this kind of dictatorship, this oppression. What parts do you think China and Russia are playing on the other side to assist Iran? Is there active movement and support there from those two countries?
Yes, or at least attempted. The Russians, of course, have less and less to offer as their own military and economic situation deteriorates by the day. But they are a border country on the Caspian Sea, we should note. And it is now through some of the Caspian Sea ports of Iran that different components, weapons components, elements needed by the Iranian IRGC are attempted to be brought into the country. As
Mhm.
far as China goes, they not only had been a very key supplier for Iran of different components, drones, and missiles and other things, but they also were the number one purchaser of Iranian oil exports out of the Persian Gulf, which no
Yep,
longer are going to China.
yep.
But what China does continue to try, or maybe up until recently anyway, was to slip ships through our naval blockade, in particular to provide to Iran the chemical precursors like sodium perchlorate that Iran would need to produce the solid rocket fuel propellant for its ballistic missiles, because that's another element that has been destroyed inside of Iran, its production facilities for exactly, this kind of fuel.
Yeah.
But increasingly, that's not helpful. That's not, getting through those Chinese supplies, not getting through. So the efforts are still there, but I would also name one more area of support, and that's, of course, at the United Nations and
Ah,
in the Security Council, where, of course, both Russia and China hold veto power, just as we do, the United States and Britain and France, too.
now I noticed. Okay, talking about China, Russia helping Iran. I know that the Americans, Trump has been quite forceful in saying that he doesn't think he's getting the support that the situation merits from his NATO allies and Western allies. Uh, I think we could probably put Canada in that same boat because uh, as we as we as we progress, it seems like Canada is purposely moving itself further and further away from its traditional alliance with America, North American air defense, and starting to align itself with European factions, the EU, um, and even going to the point where it's made in a security a secret security arrangement with the People's Republic of China. Uh, how do you see it seems, how do you see the world evolving here? It looks like we're in the midst of a real alliance shakeup. Where does
Well,
America?
absolutely. In the early days, weeks of these operations against Iran, yes, President Trump was disappointed in the lack of response from our NATO allies, not necessarily NATO as an organization, but rather the individual country members of it. However, in more recent days, now that we've, sent our own naval forces in overwhelming numbers to the region, I understand that at least both Britain and France are sending naval assets. The British are sending, or it's on its way, I think already, an air defense destroyer. I think it might be called Dragon, if I remember the name right. I'm not sure.
Yes.
But the French um, are sending their one and only aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle, and its accompanying, naval vessels in the strike force there, sending all of that to assist, to support the opening of the Strait of Hormuz and free passage, through it, Gulf of Oman, Gulf of the Arabia. So they're now joining in. I believe that some of the other Europeans previously, if I remember right, Poland and I think maybe
Poland.
Czech Republic,
Yeah.
um, earlier on sent some smaller vessels to assist in that effort too.
So it seems like America, Trump specifically, is dragging the Western alliances, kicking and screaming
Yeah,
into the
one way
into
of
the
putting it. Yeah.
into the area to support ongoing operations against this theocracy. I note that Canada is still it's got elbows up. You hear the expression "elbows up." We're intransigent, becoming more intransigent when it comes to our relations with the Americans. We're doing things like moving towards Europe for arms purchases. We're talking about the Gripen aircraft instead of the F-35. We're moving ahead with an AWACS aircraft in the form of something called the Global Eye, which is basically taking a more formidable competitor with the wedge tail from the E7 wedge tail option from America. We're going subs. Looks like we're looking at Germany and Norway, where America is gone into arrangements with the US and the UK for a nuclear sub program. So it looks like Canada is kind of wandering away from the alliance here, and I wonder just what if that's such a good thing for us, because if we keep this up, how could we? I'm thinking the arrangement we have with the security arrangement with China. How could we even remain a member of the Five Eyes if we're doing stuff like that? What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. This is all concerning, everything you've just mentioned. And of course, we have been the closest of partners for ever so long. Canada,
Yeah.
of course, a member of NATO too.
Hmm.
And our combined coordination, cooperation in NORAD continues, and of course that is, the defensive alliance aimed up at our both of our northwests, from which we want to defend any kind of incoming threat from across the way, China, North Korea. And so that remains a strong point of coordination between us, NORAD. Um, but we are concerned, of course, about the relationship that your Prime Minister Carney has and his party and Parliament have developed
Yeah.
with China. You're right to
Yeah.
point out the sensitivity of the partnership in the Five Eyes intelligence
Yeah.
alliance. That's of concern, certainly.
Well, I'm looking up at the Arctic, and I'm seeing a great deal of friction coming out of the Arctic. If we have the North American continent has such strategic concerns
Yeah,
out of the Arctic,
sure.
and Canada is wandering away to join, say, a globalist alliance out of Europe, or aligning itself more and more with China. There's going to be some friction up there, and I just don't know how that's going to pan out. But I imagine uh, Canadians are going to find out soon enough. You mentioned Carney, and it's true. He's been on the world stage saying that the world system of alliance arrangements is busted. I think he used the term ruptured. He's also said that our relationship with the Americans is a weakness. These are very, very concerning words from our prime minister, and I must say I don't think he has it right. I think he's on the wrong track there. But
Yeah, very much concerning to us as well. But you can tell me better than I would know. Are the Canadian people, along with all of that? I've heard and I suspect perhaps not.
There is a growing contingent. I think you could probably look to places like Alberta,
Yeah, yeah.
where you can see people are really, really dissatisfied with the direction of the country, and they're saying not just for economic reasons, but they're saying for personal freedom and their own civil liberties. They're talking about,
Yes.
we can't remain in Canada that is putting all these restrictions on free speech.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like almost every law that the Canadian government comes up with now, and now they have a majority, they can get it through. Almost every law they come up with has some sort of a new impingement on our charter
Yeah.
rights and freedoms.
Well,
Uh,
we'd welcome the addition of Alberta to our union as the 51st state anytime they
I know
vote to secede up there.
I know you would, and I think well, let's look at Alberta. I mean, they have the third largest energy reserves in
Yeah.
the world.
And
They could
bordering
be
right on our northern border, it would be
they
very convenient. Yeah,
they could be an energy superpower like overnight.
absolutely.
I think Canadians have got a little bit of thinking to do here. But all I'm seeing right now from you know you wouldn't believe it, Claire, that just the propaganda that takes place up here,
Yeah.
is just never-ending nudging and coercion from the state and from state media resources, telling Canadians they should be angry at Americans. They should tell Albertans they're traitors and cowards. It's not a they're not talking about maybe discussing the issues that Alberta has that it would like to discuss. No, no, they're traitors, they're cowards,
Mm.
and this whole propaganda machine is unfortunately infecting a lot of Canadians, and a lot of Canadians are taking it on board and not
Yeah.
thinking about these things as thoroughly as they should. But that's where people like organizations like C3RF, we try to get the education out there, we try to get the information out there, and people like yourself who are so credible in your areas of expertise, get that same word out. Hopefully, we can make a bit of a difference.
Hope so too.
Well, I wonder. I know you've got other things that are on your table today, Claire. What can C3RF members do to perhaps follow you or help you or just keep
Well,
track of
thank
what you're
you.
doing?
Yeah. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, I do not yet have my own website, Lopez Liberty LLC, but I do write frequently. I have a blog site at the Newsmax outlet.
Okay.
It's called In Defense of Liberty. And I also post my writing from there and other places, as well as interviews like this one at a few places. One, the United West, another one, Citizens Commission on National Security, also at the Near East Center for Strategic Engagement. And then I'm on social media. Please, I would love to have some more followers from up there in Canada. I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I still call it Twitter, but my
Yeah.
name, Claire M. Lopez, there. Same thing at Facebook in my name. I'm at Clarecho, Clarecho, on Truth Social. That is President Trump's social media platform.
Yeah.
And then one more site is Telegram. And there I'm in my company name, Lopez Liberty.
Okay. Very good to know, because I fully intend to keep following you as I
Thank
have
you.
for many, many years now, and I throw it out to all our C3F members to do the same, because there's a lot of good information here. So
Appreciate
until
that very much. Thank you.
okay, Claire, it's been an honor. Until next time, I guess we'll be signing off from in hot.
All right. Thanks again.